It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'd like to commend the school for organizing this wonderful event, and it's an absolute honor and privilege to be here today. Good evening, everyone. I started my career as a teacher close to 3 decades ago, and one of the most humbling lessons I learned was from a couple of 7-year-old boys. One of them was extremely distraught because he hadn't got a puppy as a birthday present while his friend had been presented a pup for a birthday present. He was really quite upset about it, and his friend pipes up and says to him, "Ask for a baby brother and you'll get a pup." Young children are extremely creative, and time and again as an educator, I've always been amazed by their ingenuity, sensitivity, the ability to reason and empathize. Every child holds the promise of limitless potential and contribution to the world. In contrast, the great garbage patch that you'll see, the burning Amazon rainforests, billion-dollar scams that we frequently read about in the newspapers, rising mental depression and ill health among teenagers and adults alike. All of these are examples of creative enterprise and cognitive ability going wrong. At the root of it all, fundamentally, is imbalance in our businesses, our environment, our health, and our society. Look deeper, and it simply points to an imbalance in our thoughts. Because all action is preceded by thought. The solution really lies in holistic living to correct those imbalances in our thought which arise because of a disharmony in the self. What then is holistic living? And I think the term often induces a roll of the eyes. The terminology is very commonly used but not understood completely and truly in the full self, in the full sense. It takes a tremendous amount of balance within the human to live what is a holistic life in today's world, because it's about the whole person and his whole life. It's more than sleeping 8 hours, exercising every day, eating healthy, and limiting screen time. Holistic living essentially is about finding that balance between several multi-dimensional aspects that are correlated: the spiritual, the emotional, the social, cognitive, physical, and our relationship with the environment. And the key word here really is balance. The spiritual dimension essentially finds basis in 2 truths about human beings. Firstly, within all of us is a place of centered, balanced wisdom and harmony. And secondly, we all, as adults and children, veer away off center. We veer off center from harmony, balance, and wisdom. And holistic living, or a holistic approach to life, is the means to correct those imbalances and move towards harmony and centeredness through exercises in mindfulness, being present, not launching into the future or living in the past, yoga for mind, breath, and body connection, guided visualizations that can take us to our favorite vacation spot just to calm our mind, meditation to reduce distraction and improve concentration, or simply spending time in nature, in the wild or in gardens to harmonize with nature. And all of these ways help us basically move back into balance. The spiritual dimension of holistic living focuses on developing in every child the ability to understand his place in the larger scheme of things, understand his role through establishing a strong meaning for his role in life itself, a sense of purpose, a higher purpose and a truer purpose. And for example, it involves making that paradigm shift basically from shallow materialism into conscious materialism. To take you deeper into the idea, it essentially means having every child become more aware by becoming more brand conscious, not becoming brand conscious, but becoming more brand conscientious. What does that mean? It essentially means an awareness of knowing where every product that we use, whether it's our favorite shampoo, shoe, or clothing, where it's sourced from. Was it ethically sourced? Was child labor involved? Was animal testing or animal cruelty involved? Did the environment deplete itself because this product had to be produced? So it's a conscious commitment to a lifestyle change from shallow materialism into conscious materialism. I dream of a generation of students, of children, for whom conscious capitalism, balancing profits with higher purpose, will be the norm of their corporate and entrepreneurial lives. I was talking to a few students, 16-year-olds, a few months ago, and I asked them what they thought of the phrase honest politician. And it was rather interesting because the question was met with smirks, with derisive laughter, or a statement that's an oxymoron. Cynicism is growing amongst the next generation and is increasing day by day. And cynicism gives rise to disempowering thoughts like, what difference can one single person make? And these disempowering thoughts give rise to disempowering feelings of helplessness and powerlessness. And this is what deters us from action. It's the death knell for optimism and hope. And it's the emotional dimension of holistic living that requires us to find that balance within ourselves so we can keep at bay these thoughts which can paralyze and numb us and work towards a calming centeredness within ourselves. And how exactly do we do that? It begins with working with our children, because the problems that have been created in the world today requires a degree of innovation and a degree of radical thinking far greater than when the problems were first created. The old ways of thinking cannot solve these new problems. Problem solving, creativity, mental clarity, kindness, compassion, etc., all cannot coexist next to mind-numbing, paralyzing thoughts such as hopelessness, fear, guilt, shame, anxiety, panic, and so on. So one of the most fundamental ways to build emotional health in our children is by creating opportunities for fun, mirth, and laughter in our children's lives. For example, playing dodgeball in our house with a sock so nothing breaks. Or asking a child how his day went before asking him what his grades were. It's important to encourage a healthy expression, a constructive expression of emotions without shaming or disregarding a child's feelings. Our minds can at best be our best friend and at worst be our worst enemy. And balance is derived from socio-emotional stability. In a recent incident, a student showed signs of exams anxiety. And when the principal asked who she had shared her concerns with, the rather unexpected response was, "I've been looking online for counselors." In crisis, this youngster did not turn to a family member, a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a counselor, but had preferred to engage with a screen. Rather interesting, isn't it? You've probably observed that both adults and children prefer to engage with a screen rather than with another human. And this points to a rising social deficit in our society. The social dimension within holistic living requires, essentially, that we build positive relationships with family members and friends. A question we have to ask ourselves is whether our children have more limited human interactions and therefore fewer opportunities to develop close relationships and build social skills. It requires us to build opportunities so our children learn how to build friendships, close friendships, what to do when someone's bothering them, how to resolve conflict, how to negotiate. And it really begins with spending time with the child, actively listening with complete attention and being fully present during that interaction, the focus being not on the quantity of time, but the quality of interaction. The cognitive dimension, on the other hand, involves not just knowing how to carry out a refined Google search, but the ability to recognize skewed perspectives, fake news, hype, and sensationalism. The holistic approach involves having an ethical and social underpinning to every cognitive task that we undertake. Reflection, problem solving, creative endeavor, or expanding our knowledge and skills, because history is replete with examples of cognitively able human beings whose actions and inventions have resulted in mass destruction of humankind and irreversible environmental change. The need of the hour is to engage our children in debates, discussion, action on mass energy, on mass education, clean and renewable energy, employment for all, use of technology, responsible use of technology, and ways to alleviate poverty. The physical dimension, on the other hand, emphasizes holistic health to prevent disease through a lifestyle based on balance, rather than just symptomatically treating mental and physical ailments. The holistic approach emphasizes adequate sleep, of course, but consuming nutrient-dense foods, but also reading food labels to make smarter food choices. It requires vigorous physical activity for older children, but also non-competitive, unstructured free play for younger children, so endorphins are released in their brain, which is essentially a booster of mood and a stress buster. Meet Maggie Doyen, the 19-year-old who was on a holiday in Nepal and met an impoverished 6-year-old girl, Hema, who was unable to attend school. Moved by this encounter, she basically spent $5,000 that she had earned from babysitting over the years on Hema's education and the education of many others. Her project now runs a school, a children's home, a women's center in Nepal, and her philanthropic contributions won her the CNN Hero of the Year award in 2015. In 2018, Greta Thunberg, a 15-year-old, protested outside the Swedish parliament calling for stronger climate action, spiraling multi-city protests involving more than 1 million students. And as a result, she was featured on Time magazine's May 2019, calling her a next-generation leader. In fact, last Friday, her call for protest had over 4 million adults from around the world joining her, calling for protest or request for greater climate action. When awareness, knowledge, action, balance, and higher purpose come together to govern our choices, we develop a generation of creative, critical, and compassionate thinkers and doers. In conclusion, the greatest gift that we can give our children is a sense of purpose, the wings to fly, and the roots to stay grounded. And holistic living fosters a child's ability to happily live his or her full potential and become the best possible version of themselves. Thank you.